What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Mewzings Podcast studio. Today, I have the great honor of being joined by, well, let's see, we got to have all the accolades. UFC veteran, Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but most importantly, the title that I take the most pride in, my friend Jeff Hougland. How you doing tonight, Jeff?
Good, James. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, buddy. So, whenever we have the great fortune of being in each other's presence, if we're coaching at a jiu-jitsu tournament or anything like that, the subject always comes back to our love of comics. So when I first started this podcast, I wanted to make sure to have you on here eventually. So, obviously we love jiu-jitsu and we love all these things we do for our livelihood, but I think one of our biggest shared mutual passions is comics. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of your first memories of getting into comics and everything as a kid, and then we'll get into collecting over the years and all that good stuff. So why don't you tell us how you got into comics and some of your earliest memories of collecting and just delving into this amazing world?
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like I was lucky. We were both born in like the greatest era for superheroes. Like we had all the shows, the Lou Ferrigno Hulk and all these different, the old Batman shows and Green Hornet and $6 Million Man, just so many different like superhero things. And I got into comics, by my mom would make me go to the grocery store with her, and I hated it. It was boring as a kid, but they always had comics at the magazine racks or whatever, little spinner racks and stuff. So I would go over there and I would try to read as many books as I could. And then she would usually buy me one or two books that I could take with me. So I would try to read all the ones that I didn't, and I'd get the two that I really wanted, and then read whatever I could while I was there. So, and then I did that for a long time.
It's like a race against the clock.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like a race against the clock. I remember those days, man. Like grab as many as you could and dive through them, and then maybe, hopefully, if mom or dad were feeling generous, they let you take home a couple too.
For sure. That's when they were like 75 cents or something like that, So they weren't too expensive like they are.
Yeah.
But I just I've always loved the stories. I love the characters. It's just a way for me to. I've always been able to like turn myself off, my head off, and get into the books. And even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time, I can jump into these stories and like take a break from reality.
Yeah, get a little bit of an escape, a little bit of downtime, because you in comparison to some of my other guests that I've had on here, you definitely know what it's like to run a jiu-jitsu gym full time and coach and train jiu-jitsu competitors, and you actually work with a lot of MMA fighters and things. So I know for both you and I, like, that's something we're very passionate about too, and it's kind of one of those your passion, your hobby kind of becomes your job. So I think it's important that we have that little thing we can do, with the comics, and kind of completely decompress when we get done doing all of that at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think it's super important. As you know, that job is, you're giving a lot of yourself all the time, and you're also taking in a lot of different people's energy, right? And it can be hard on us, I care about people generally, and especially my teammates and stuff. So,
you and me both.
Yeah. So for me, before I go to the gym, or definitely every day, like when I get up from a nap, I have coffee and I read comic books before. It's kind of like how I just chill out before I go back and teach at night.
Yeah. Now, what are some of your earliest memories as far as the books you were picking up? Because when we're younger, we have these, like we were talking about, going to the store and getting in there, and then when we get our own autonomy and we start making our own money, and we can actually buy things and go out on our own and start like officially, quote unquote, being a collector of comics. What are your earliest memories of some of the comics that you were collecting way back in the day?
Definitely Spider-Man. I like to read Avengers. I didn't get too much into Fantastic Four till I was older. But the one that I would probably say grabbed a hold of me the most was Punisher. I just remember,
Yeah.
I even remember the exact book. Yeah, I think it's Punisher Volume 2. So not the first one that Zek did, the 1 through 5. It was like when they got
Yep.
the first title or whatever. And it was issue 19.
Is that the one where is that the one where the first issue he's got the rocket launcher
Yes.
on the cover? That
Yes.
series? Yeah.
Yeah. So the book was, I think it's number 19, but it's just sitting on the back of a camel and he's got a rifle. And I just remember seeing that and I was like, I picked it up and I read it. And I probably read that book like 10 times. And then I had to jump back
Yeah.
in and find out, get the other books. And then I started collecting Punisher from there. But that was like the first time that I was like, I could be a superhero. Like, this guy doesn't have any
Exactly.
powers. He knows how to shoot guns and fight and stuff. And,
Yeah.
I was like, wow. And, and he was different. He killed people and, he has that moral code or whatever. But, I thought, wow, what a cool character.
Yeah, I was always like a Punisher, Wolverine, those type of like gritty characters like that always resonated with me. And then, of course, given my stature, the Hulk has always been near and dear to my heart as well, right? Yeah, I remember, those Punisher books, man. Like, I remember getting into those back on when War Journal was coming out, when Jim Lee was on there, because I always kind of followed artists, right? And there's some sick books that Jim Lee did early in his career in those War Journals. I actually just found a bunch of those. I keep having this habit of finding comics that I didn't realize I had. Like Amy was cleaning she was cleaning the storage room the other day and she found this giant tote like full of stacks of books. I'm like, how did those get there? I don't even remember these. It was like War Journal issue 1 through, whatever, and then a bunch of that other Punisher series. And oh, man, I'm like, this is a good problem to have, but I swear I don't remember how I got those, where they came from, but I was going through all that Jim Lee stuff and just before I would put them in a new bag and board, I'd flip through all of it and stare at the art, and brought back so many great memories.
Yeah, there's I love that run as well. That beginning when I think he goes to like Hawaii or something, right, on like a vacation, and that whole like little.
He's got like the jet ski. I think the one he's like on a jet ski.
Yeah, that's a great run, and I actually really like. I would almost say Jim Lee drawing Punisher was probably my second favorite. Something about the way Zek draws the face. I don't know, that's the Punisher to me. Like, he looks like a murderous dude, and a lot of people have drawn him over the years. Sometimes he's super big, and sometimes he looks smaller and stuff. To me, it was always about the face. I like the way Zek drew it the best. But Jim Lee, my second favorite for sure.
Yeah, Jim Lee always been somebody that I've really admired as somebody into comic art and things, and like seeing him back there, I was looking at like who inked him on those, because he connected with Scott Williams at one point, and that's kind of who he stuck with through his career. Like, a lot of people don't realize, like, Scott Williams is exclusive to Jim Lee. Like, many years ago, he quit taking on work with any other artist, and he's like, nope, I'm just dedicated to only working on Jim's stuff. And now Scott's actually like doing his own comic art and like actually drawing and creating his own art and not just inking, which is really neat to see. But when I was going through those, like, there was an issue where Terry Austin inked him. There was an issue where Klaus Janson inked Jim Lee, and where Jim Lee inked himself. And it was really neat to see, like, that's one of the cool things, an inker can really like change somebody's art or bring out things in their art that we may not have normally noticed. So it was really cool to go through those old war journals and see like all these different people work over Jim Lee, and just like, honestly, it was interesting to see like some of the stuff he inked himself was almost my favorite. Like seeing him do his own inks on his pencils was really cool. So if you go back through those and check them out, like definitely look for that and see if you can spot the little changes and things.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that now for sure. Yeah.
For sure. Now you're wearing an awesome Ghost Rider shirt. I'm assuming that Ghost Rider is also somebody that you like as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I like all of the different Ghost Riders as well.
Yeah. Did you see, and just for the listeners, like, we're probably going to get into spoiler territory. So at the point where you're listening to this, like, I'm sure we're going to end up discussing Deadpool and Wolverine and stuff at some point. I know you've probably seen it at least more than once or more than once.
Twice, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So it was really cool. I just saw a rumor today that they might actually be getting Ryan Gosling to be playing a version of Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that could work, man. I think he could pull it off.
Yeah, so I see a lot of people, they jump online, anytime somebody gets casted, like the same thing with Robert Downey, right? People are just losing their mind.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm excited for it because these guys are world class, and if they want to do these roles, they could do it. They're great. And I'm an adult. I can look past the fact that the dude was Iron Man. If he wants to play Dr. Doom, I get it.
Yeah.
And Ryan Gosling, I think, is a good actor, and obviously the guy knows what he's doing. If he commits to the part, then I think it'll be great.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too to find out, like, a lot of these guys came up on comics too. So when you find out after the fact that they're going after these roles, and then you find out, like, yeah, it's because dude's a comic fan. Like Channing Tatum, right? So Channing Tatum shows up in again, spoilers, shows up in Deadpool and Wolverine. He'd been trying to get that Gambit movie made for like 10 years and it never happened. And the guy's a huge comic fan, like still collects, I think, collected as a kid. The other day on his Instagram, he posted, one of the issues of the Max from Image Comics, and he's like, hey, this is my comic from when I was a kid, and now I'm honored to announce that I'm going to be part of putting the movie together for the Max and all of that. So it's just neat to see these people that are like us, but they're in that different realm of acting, and now they're able to go after these roles, because being in a superhero movie isn't a bad and frowned upon thing anymore.
No, I mean, look at all the major actors that have done it, and I can understand like some of these guys not wanting to get typecasted or whatever. Me personally, if I could be a superhero, like, you got to play it the rest of your life, I'm in. I don't care if it's Speedball or who it is.
Yeah.
Part, I'd be happy, but. These people that train their whole life for this profession, they want to show their range of skills as an actor and stuff, and they might not want to be, Doctor Strange forever or whatever. But to me, I think it's cool,
Definitely, man. Yeah, like you said, if either one of us were actors, I'm sure it's like, please typecast me as a superhero. I'd be all in. That's the cool thing about Hugh Jackman, man. Like. That dude's Wolverine. Like, we'll see how long they keep him. Like Deadpool jokes in the movie, Disney's gonna have you doing this till you're 90.
Right. Yeah,
we'll see how long he can keep getting in that condition, man. Because he's 56 now. He just turned 56, and like, yeah. While they were doing that movie, like, I think he was 54, 55 years old, and getting in that kind of condition at that age, like, that's dedication to the role right there.
For sure. I heard him doing an interview where he said he was like getting in shape for it, and then the writer's strike happened or whatever, and then he didn't know when it was coming, so he dieted like extra long and like just kept it
yeah.
I mean, from somebody that's cut weight for matches and stuff like that, that is not fun to do. And
no.
props to him for sticking with it, because he gave us a great look for Wolverine.
He did, and especially when people don't understand like what it means to peak and be in the perfect. Like he's got to time that to where the day of filming he is absolutely as dehydrated and shredded as possible, lowest body fat, and then to have that come up with the strike and everything. He said all he was eating was tilapia and beans,
Right.
like for many months.
Right.
He said they had him on 6,000 calories a day.
Yeah,
that's a lot of food.
Nothing fun in there. Just 6,000, calories of nutrients.
Yeah, that's what he said. It was like tilapia and beans and like maybe chicken or something, and that was it. He just stuck to it hardcore and did all those workouts, and obviously paid off. And I love how they all the other characters admiring him during those scenes when his clothes came off.
That was funny. Yeah.
It was good. So Deadpool and Wolverine, I mean, what was your favorite part about it? Because I have several favorite things, but it seems to get better every time I watch it too. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. So I mean, opening scene was amazing. It was funny. Yeah. It was Deadpool. I mean, that was him just killing massive amount of people, and it was funny and stuff. The song was great.
Yep.
I mean, obviously when Blade came out, I mean that was cool.
Dude, that shocked me.
Yeah.
Because I was fortunate. I didn't get that spoiled for me. I know some people, because there was some leaks where that was rumored in, but I was lucky enough not to see those. So that was like, I was surprised how much I needed to see that. Like I didn't know I needed it.
Right.
But when that cameo, when he walked out and like the way they did the music and everything, I was like, oh, I was like grabbing Amy. I'm like, it's Blade.
Yeah. I mean, I love the old Blade movie.
That was dope.
The old Blade movie.
Yeah, me too.
Fantastic.
We just rewatched the first one the other night. We're doing a whole thing where we're trying to literally go through all the comic book movies that we love from way back. And so we started with Blade, and now it's going to take us forever. Yeah. We're going to work our way through all the old movies and all the, MCU stuff in chronological order. And yeah, Blade coming out, but then seeing Gambit and then having it be Channing Tatum, knowing that he's been wanting to do that.
For sure.
That was cool.
Yeah, and his accent and everything was, it just made it so much better,
It was made for so many good memes, too.
Right. I heard...
go ahead.
The X-23 girl, she said...
Yeah, Daphne Keane.
Yeah, she said that he wasn't allowed to like talk or look at her like when she had to do her lines because she would just laugh too much, So,
yep. She said she couldn't keep it together, and she was like trying to make sure she was able to record her scenes without him there and stuff because every time he opened his mouth.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And I mean, they probably had him saying all sorts of stuff that we're gonna see in the gag reels and stuff when it comes out on video too. Like, I'm sure he was getting to ad lib a bit and was saying all sorts of even crazier stuff than made it into the movie.
What'd you think about the end video, the little fox one? I thought it was cool.
It was great, man. It actually, I know this is going to sound silly to some people, but it actually made me kind of emotional.
Sure.
Like, I just thought it was cool that they were giving props to everybody.
Yeah.
And giving that kind of that end of an era type of thing, So I thought that was great. I thought I like that they did that tribute to that actor who lost his son, too. I thought that was really cool. They had that on there. And then that visual design guy that passed away during it. But yeah, I love the little props they gave to all the old Fox stuff and everything, and just giving those people a proper send off.
For sure, and I mean, without them, maybe we would never have what we have today. So, I hope they did have the time of their life making those movies. I can only dream of doing something like that, and being a part of the Marvel universe, So, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and now it's funny because Marshala Ali is supposed to have that Blade, reboot that they're working on, but it keeps getting delayed and everything. And now, now after seeing Wesley Snipes in this, I guess there's a huge campaign by fans where they're like, cancel that one. We wanna send off for Wesley Snipes. We want one last, like a Logan style Blade movie where he gets his last hurrah or whatever.
Yeah, Old
Hey,
Man Blade.
I'd be down to watch it.
Oh, I'd watch it for sure. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how they leaned into it, and he's like, "There'll only be one blade," and then Deadpool like looks at the camera and raises his eyebrows.
That was pretty funny.
So now we are in this age of almost endless superhero content to a level that you or I never could have imagined as a kid, that we'd be getting literal like blockbuster level movies of all our favorite characters from the comics. Is there anything in particular out of what's coming up that you're very excited about as far as the MCU stuff? I mean, I know you and I, like, we don't hate on any of it. Like, we're kind of just happy to be getting it because we remember what it was like to not have any of it or have it very limited and cheesy. So now, people say there's superhero fatigue with the movies, but I don't think that's true. I think that's people nitpicking, and, people like you and I and most hardcore fans, we're like just happy that this stuff is coming out, whether it be a Disney Plus series or a movie. Like, we're there for it day one, right?
Absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to Daredevil, the new one. I love the Netflix series. I thought that show was great. I love the guy that plays him. I loved how they introduced the Punisher in the second season, and and then drove into Defenders and all that stuff with the different shows. So I can't wait to see Charlie Cox and bring it back to life. And I also love the Kingpin. The Vincent D'Onofrio did a great job, and I didn't want to see him go away. I want to see more.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah,
he did such a great job with that role, and really seemed to embrace the character and everything, and be into it. So the fact that he's coming back for this, and one thing that's really special about it, like, I agree with you, it's one of the ones I'm most excited about, and I'm really excited for my friend Ron Garney, because they're basing a lot of it off of his run he did on Daredevil that he drew, and he actually created an original character called the Muse on there. It's a dude that's like all in bandages and like bleeding from his eyes. Ron created that character, and he's like the main villain in this show.
Nice.
Yeah, so Ron got to go on set, and I'm sharing this because he shared it in his podcast episode that's already out, so I'm assuming it's okay to share. But he said when he went on set, like, they had the dude there in it, and like the blood coming out and everything, and he got to see it up close, and he said it was so surreal because it was literally like how he envisioned him in his head. Before he put him on paper, it was like seeing that brought to life. Like, it was so accurate and correct. And he was just blown away.
Yeah, what a feeling, like, to see something that you manifested and drew up come to life, and you get to, and then get to share it with the world, and for the most part they're gonna love it. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we got, Johnny Bernthal coming back to be Punisher in it. I heard that also the dude that played Bullseye in the other season, he's going to be back in it. So, and, Kingpin. So it's going to be interesting. I think they're taking kind of from the comic when Kingpin was like running for mayor or whatever.
Okay.
Like, they're doing some version of that storyline. So, yeah, I think that one's going to be sick.
Yeah. I love Bernthal's my favorite Punisher. I would say him, and then honestly, the guy from Warzone, I thought he did really good.
Ray Stevenson.
Yeah, that was a great Punisher. That, to me, was very much like the comic, just blood and guts, and that Jigsaw where his face was all tore up,
but that's how he is in the comics.
Yeah, they did all right in the Netflix series, but like the Jigsaw in the comics is tore up, and
he is, yeah.
I had a few scars. hell, I got more scars than that guy. You know what I mean? Like the
I know, right? Yeah, you and me both.
mm,
Yeah, they didn't do him upright. Yeah, the Warzone movie that was cool because they just leaned into all the gore and the violence and everything, which is really, if you look at the comics, I mean, that's what Punisher's all about. So it was neat to see them kind of fully lean into that and do it in the movie. So Johnny Bernthal, he's actually a jiu-jitsu dude. Like he trains and everything. A lot of people don't realize. Like he's really into jiu-jitsu, and I was so bummed one time because at ECC, normally I would go over to the celebrity area because some of my students would be over there, like bodyguarding some of those guys at the cons. And the year that Johnny Bernthal was there was the one year I didn't go over. And they told me, they're like, "Oh, we told him about you. He wanted to meet you. It's too bad you didn't come over. Like, he loves jiu-jitsu and wanted to talk to you." I'm like, damn it, the one time.
right.
Yeah, it's really cool, like how many of these celebrities train now.
Yeah.
Like I don't hate on that, you know. Like you see a lot of people hating on it and everything, but I just think the more exposure for our sport, the better.
Yeah, and can you blame him? I mean, I love it. You love it. I can't imagine not doing it. So, of course, I could understand
Yeah,
why some guy would want to train. Of course, you know what I mean. Like, it's addicting. It's
yeah,
fun. It's great for your health. So I hope they stick with it.
yeah. Me too. Yeah, and even if they're training in a limited capacity, because I think that's what some people hate on is the fact that like and you got to understand, if you're somebody that's hating on them because they're only doing private lessons or maybe they're not like integrated into a normal class and like rolling with the other students all the time, like most celebrities have clauses in their agreements that they can't get hurt. Like they have to be very careful about getting hurt. So you got somebody like that in your gym, you do need to kind of not baby them too much, but make sure they're rolling with people that are going to keep them safe and not, putting them with Joe Blow white belt on his second day that might elbow him in the head and cut him open or something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to comics, well, it's all comics now, like the movies as well. But going back to the collecting, you got into like you're what I would consider even more hardcore than me because you actually got a bit into like cleaning and pressing and doing some of this stuff with comics. So I thought it would be interesting if you chatted about that journey a little bit, because some of the people listening might not be familiar with the fact that like you can actually take within some limitations, because if a book's too far gone, it's too far gone, but we can actually take a book that is got some creases in it and got some stains and dirt and everything and
Mhm.
get it back into a more presentable shape. So how did you kind of practice to be able to do that? And what have you learned as a result of that? I'm assuming you took some old books you didn't care about too much and
No, I
and
just
put those ones
started
under
with
the
the
knife, so
Ultimate
to
81.
speak.
No, for sure. I had a bunch of old, like, quarter bin books and stuff like that I didn't care about. And I treated those things like they were gold. I tried to do everything right. And I did a lot of research beforehand. I was looking at YouTube and stuff of people that were doing it and listening to them. And then, I mean, the big thing is you gotta kind of know how to grade a little bit because is it even worth it? You know what I mean? Like some books, I
Right.
mean, if I found a Batman #1, I don't care what condition it's in, I'm gonna, take care of it and send it in to get graded, right? Because it's gonna be worth something. But certain books,
Yeah.
it's just not worth taking all the time and effort, So, um, reading up on how to kind of grade books and stuff, it was a big one, and then just really practicing and taking your time, and it's a gentle touch, right? Like it's almost like jujitsu. Like in the beginning, you think everything is rough,
Yeah.
you mess your book up or tear a page or something. So you got to do it, very gently. And then, yeah, I started looking at like putting books into. I looked at like how they were whitening the pages and stuff, and I basically put it in a humidifier. And you got to be very careful. You have to use
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask you if you'd gotten that far into it, because last time we chatted a little bit about it. You'd been doing like, using the erasers and things to get the stains, and you'd done some pressing and stuff. But I was going to ask you about like the UV baths and all of this stuff that people are doing to whiten the pages and all of that. So I figured you'd probably gotten that far into it.
Yeah.
But now it's been confirmed.
Yeah, I'm definitely dabbling. I mean, there's guys out there that I don't know what kind of voodoo they're doing to comics, but I'll see their before and after stuff, and it's unreal, like what they can do. I'm nothing. I can't do anything like that. But I am definitely trying to figure stuff out, and I'm not gonna practice on any crazy books, but you know, I definitely have been. I looked in, I did the research, and I bought the stuff, and because I'm interested in it. I wanna be able to do it. So yeah, I enjoy the whole process.
What are some supplies that, like, basic supplies that you started with? Did you just, I know there's certain kind of erasers that look better when it comes to taking stains off. And I mean, obviously you did a lot of research into it. So you probably bought, things you saw other people using.
Yeah.
If you were going to kind of give advice to somebody new to it, I know the first advice is going to be find the comics that you don't care about, right, accidentally ruining. But what other stuff would you tell them to make sure they have, just to kind of, for their first little venture into practicing on cleaning them up and getting them in that condition?
I would say definitely like proper lighting is like another big one, because if you don't have the proper lighting, I'm sure you've looked at books in under a certain light, and then all of a sudden a brighter light, and you're like, oh wow, that's a lot. There's a lot more damage here than I thought. So proper lighting would be a good one. As far as erasers, I use nothing but white erasers. That's the like burgundy ones or whatever. They're not too good. The pink ones, they can mess your books up in pretty quick.
Yeah.
As far as stains go, I have that like putty stuff. You can get some stuff off, and you'd be disgusted at what things I found on books, Coach. Like it's
oh man,
little kids picking their nose and stuff.
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's horrible. But yeah, so I try to get as much stuff off as I can. Then you have to learn how to stack a book so that you don't pop staples. Like if you're going to press it, right? Because people, there's a certain amount that you want to, you got to give it pressure to get these creases out and stuff. But if you do too much, you're popping staples and everything else, and then your book's in big trouble. So yeah, I would just say.
Now, do you get in there with the parchment paper and all that stuff when you do the pressing, putting the parchment paper in between the pages? And
yeah, there's a way. I looked it up. It was just called like making a comic book stack, and I just copied that, and it's worked well for me. Of course, I did pop a staple or two in the beginning. You figure out, how much pressure to use and stuff. But yeah, luckily I made that mistake on books that were no big deal.
Yeah.
But I don't like
key issues. No gold keys in there.
Oof, no.
Now, the humidity one really scared me. I watched a video of a guy. He's like, yeah, build your own humidity thing and all of this. And I'm like, everything that went into that, I was like, good Lord, like controlling the proper humidity and stuff. And that blew me away, like just how scientific all that was. Did you build your own little chamber and everything to do that in?
So what I did was I bought an old brand new like mini fridge. And I just took most of the shelving out except for one rack. And I saw different ways to do it. I saw guys doing them in bins, like Tupperware bins or whatever and stuff like that. But I wanted something.
Yeah, I saw the dude. He He used like some, just like a Rubbermaid container and stuff. It wasn't too like overly elaborate,
Yeah, so I use a mini fridge, and then you have to use distilled water because you don't want any of the minerals. Like minerals will jack up your book if they'll get on the book and mess it up. So you want to use distilled water
Yeah.
that has no minerals, and then you got to make sure because obviously you're going to put it in there. It's got to get moist, but it can't get wet or like you can't have water droplets on the book.
Exactly.
So you have to. I would basically use magazine boards and kind of sandwich it, and then wrap towels around it a little bit, and then put it in. And then I go down, boil the water, the distilled water, and then come up and put it in and close it. And I bought a little temperature and humidity gauge that I watch, and I keep it in there for quite a while. Sometimes 24 hours, depending on how old. But it is incredible how it brightens the pages up and can plump up some of those creases. Especially like, I mean, if it's color breaking, it's not gonna that's permanent.
Yeah, you're not gonna do
But
too much magic. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you get
Yeah.
those. Remember they call them subscription creases because they used to send them to you kind of folded up like that.
Yep.
Yeah, or they'd stick them in your mailbox like that.
Yeah.
If they don't break color, sometimes you can get those to kind of page to plump up, and then you can press that out, and that can be the difference between a 5.0 and a 7.0 or something, which is, I mean, you buy graded books and stuff that can be a lot of money for certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. All those grading points make a difference at the end of the day if you're somebody that's big into that. So, yeah. So I'm assuming the process is going to be, if you had to take somebody through the steps, it's going to be probably first you're going in there with your erasers and all of that and getting as much of the dirt and stains off of there.
Yep.
And then does it go from that to your humidity treatment? And then from that, once you get everything as white as possible and plumped up, then you're going to the pressing portion.
Yeah. So then you heat press, and I make sure to do like both sides, and then I let it cold press for like 14, 15 hours. And then take it out and put it right into Mylar.
Yeah. Now, have you delved into sending stuff in like to CGC or any of these other companies to get graded?
Yeah, I've done.
So have you?
I've done CGC.
Oh, go ahead.
I've done.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done CGC.
Okay. That always scares me.
Yeah, no, it is for sure.
I get a little scared with that. Like sending it, like just the idea of sending it through the mail, like that's the part that scares me the most. It's not necessarily what CGC is going to do with it, but it's like making sure that it gets there and it gets back to me. That's the part that scares me the most. I think like for me, I probably would need to make sure I had like 2 or 3 copies of that book and send one off, and just in case it doesn't make it back to me,
Well, they'll send you like a shipping kit, and they'll tell you exactly how to pack it so it could be its best. Now, nothing in life's guaranteed, right? I mean, we've all had mail that we've had to send back, which you hope for the best, but they give you the best chance of your book not being damaged with the shipping kit or whatever. And when in doubt, just go extra, right? I mean, especially if you have an older book or something. But I would always, my suggestion with like graded books, because I've had a lot better luck with sending in Silver Age stuff than I have with modern.
Okay.
I had modern stuff that I thought would be 9.6, 9.8, come back 9.4. And that's a big, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
So the older stuff, I thought, okay, I'm going to get a 7.0 or something like that, maybe, or less. And I've gotten back 8.5s and stuff that I was really happy with. So that was nice. So I don't do anything modern anymore, to be honest. Just if it's silver.
Yeah.
But really, the only things that I'm sending into grade now are just things that I love so much that I want to preserve them. I've never sold a comic book in my life. I do want to someday. I I want to have a comic book
I get
shop.
first dibs.
For sure.
I get first dibs before the shop opens. I gave you first dibs on my stuff. I get first dibs if you ever sell. If you're gonna let some stuff go, call me over, man. I'll be right over.
Absolutely, that's a deal for sure. But
Yeah.
I love my current job, and I'd like to do it in some capacity forever. But I just turned 46, and I've been doing this for over 25 years, and it's hard on your body, and
It is, yeah.
so there's going to be a time when I'm not going to be able to be out there like I want to and stuff. So I need to transition to a different part of my life, which I want a little brick and mortar just for the nostalgia of having a comic book store. But I'll probably do online sales and stuff. You have to do both, I think, in this world now. Because comic shops are,
I think you do, yeah.
Comic shops are a hard thing to keep open. How many have you seen come and go? It's rough.
Way too many, man. I love all of them, and it always kills me when I see them go under, but I've seen so many come and go over the years.
I try to buy, anytime I see a store, I drop some money, just trying to do my part to help them stay open, and just preserve that. Yeah. I love that, the culture of that. I remember when my town got a comic book shop. When I grew up in California, it was called Kamikaze. And I would ride my bike there, and I would, check out all the comics. I would get the ones that I, however much money I could get. I would take books in there that I would find at yard sales, and, they would try to buy them off me, or, for pennies, and I wouldn't do it. So
yeah,
cool. But, and eventually they closed. And I've seen a ton of shops close, and it is sad, but yeah, I love that, and I want to preserve that. I like that ability to go in and just do a little, rifling through boxes and looking for stuff. And I like to be able to get new books, and maybe they got some grails on the wall or something that you can, talk and get a good deal on or something. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you find for the most part that most of these places, like, they're willing to negotiate a little bit too, and obviously we're trying to go in there and show them support and help keep them going. And yeah, I like my tradition now. I think I've told you this before. Like, anytime somebody brings me out somewhere for a seminar, or if I'm traveling somewhere for a tournament, like every state I've been to, I always make the point of going and supporting wherever their local comic book shops are, and try to pick up a few things here and there.
Yeah, I do the same thing as well. Anytime we travel for fights or wherever I go, I always, comic stores near me, and I look to go and hit them up and stuff. So I've had some good luck. I've gotten some really great deals. I don't know. Lately, it seems like comic book stores, there was that big boom in price during COVID, and a lot of them are still trying to ride that high. But if you look like online, you can get it a lot cheaper and stuff a lot of the time. And I'm like, I want to support these shops, but I'm still not going to pay you like an exorbitant amount of money when I could go online and just get it sent to me for way cheaper.
Yeah, I
could pay a little bit because I understand you gotta make your money and stuff, but they're charging like 20 prices still in shops.
Yeah,
I'm like, how is like long shot number one $100? You know what I mean? Like, it's a cool book, and whatever, but it's not $100 book, I'm not going to spend that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be within reason, right? Like, you can tell when it's within reason or when it's exorbitant. And you're like, that's either the I don't actually want to sell at price, or I'm just trying to ask way above market value. Like, I get, fair market value and then adding a little bit to that. But like you're saying, some of these places, it's almost like, I could imagine it could be like you or I, if we opened a shop and we got our collection in there and there's some stuff we really love and we've got it up for sale, but it's because we told our wife we would sell that one, but it's priced so nobody would ever buy it, so we get to keep it.
Absolutely.
I can see that. I can see that. I'm sure there's some shop owners that kind of do that just because they know they don't want to get rid of it if it's from their personal collection, which I get.
Yeah.
But when you're running a business, I think especially if you're running a comic book store, like a lot of it is about that community and like building the relationships with the customers too. Like I know I'm way more likely to go support the shops that will let me, you know, in a respectful way, haggle a little bit and we'll work with you and come down like 5-10%. Like it's reasonable in my opinion. Like I'm never rude or anything. I always ask them, are you willing to negotiate a little bit? And 9 times out of 10, they're right there for it and they get it. You know, a lot of them, especially if they're collectors themselves, they totally get it.
Yeah, isn't that part of the? I always felt that was part of the culture, right? Of like, you got this book here, you want $80 for it. We both know you'll take 70, and then you feel good. You're still making 10-15 bucks off of it or whatever. And I feel like I got a deal as well. Both people are happy. I want to come back. Right. But when you're charging crazy prices and then you're like, no, well, okay. I have no problem saying no anymore.
Yeah, I have one shop, and I won't name it on here because maybe I just caught the guy on a bad day, but it was like they had a ton of Jack Kirby stuff that I needed, and I was like, I went up to the counter with a stack, and then they had a gold key like in the display, another Jack Kirby thing I needed, and I went on there and I offered him like. I was gonna drop like $450, right? And it was like $500 worth of books. So I'm like, hey, would you take $450 for this? And the guy started to like, he's like, oh yeah, like let me look. And then this other guy shouts over, he's like, we ain't looking to make any deals right now. And I go, well, I'm just, I'm trying to buy all this stuff from you. I'm not asking for a huge amount off. It's like $450. It's $500 worth. I'm asking you if you'll take $450. Like if you don't want to, no big deal. And he's like, yeah, we're not looking to do. And I was like, all right, dude, I'll just go put everything back. Like went and put everything back. And the other guy's like looking at him like, man, you just lost us a $450 sale. I haven't been back to that shop since because the dude, he was rude with the way he said it. Sure. Like I get if you're like, hey man, like we're struggling right now, we can't make any deals, I'm sorry. But if you're like, you got one guy who's willing to negotiate and then the other guy's over there being rude and kind of talking smack, it was like big turnoff. But I would say that's not the norm with what I've experienced. So usually it's all good and they're willing to make a sale because at the end of the day, I mean, his till was $450 lighter than it would have been otherwise, right?
For sure. Yeah. Is that the worst experience you've ever had at a comic shop?
Yeah. I'm really lucky.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I had one time where I went in and it had all the prices on the books, right? And I asked, hey, are these books? This the price? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I spent like an hour and a half going through these books, grabbing all these different ones I wanted. I come up with a fat stack. And then the guy's like, hold on, I gotta look up the prices.
Oh no!
They said this was they're marked. I go, the prices are on them. He goes, oh no, we just got that collection. We haven't repriced it yet. I have to like look it up. So I go, you told me that these were the price, and now you want me to wait while you go and look it up. Like you should have done that. You do that on your time, not my time. And
yeah,
I was like, yeah, you just take it all, man. I'm not doing it. I was mad. Yeah. Just more of the wasted time. And there wasn't any.
Yeah, and he realized he screwed up too. He's like, oh crap. He knew you had found a deal, and then he probably realized like, oh, maybe we underpriced these. Let's see if I can pull one over on this guy and look these up and change it on the fly, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the fun part is like, I don't know about you, but I mean, I've found books in comic book stores, right? That like were in the middle or wherever, and like maybe they slip through the cracks, and you come up and you're like, the
Yep.
guy's like, oh my, $2, you know, oh man, and they're like, good on
Yeah.
you, guy, you know, you found the treasure, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the thrill of the hunt, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, and they're gonna make up more on the back end, anyways. Because I'm like you, I rarely go in and spend. You know, I'm not buying 2 or 3 books. I'm dropping money when I go. A couple
No.
$100 every time I visit a
Yeah.
comic book store. You know, and
Minimum.
hopefully my
Yeah.
wife doesn't watch
Minimum
this
for
later.
sure.
Maybe edit that.
You know what, Jeff? I mean, there's a lot worse things we could go be spending $200 on. So I think at the end of the day, like you and I, both of our wives realize they're married to big children.
Right.
So I think they kind of know it comes with the territory a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, we're very blessed to have the level of support we have with our collections. I mean, look at me over here with way too many collections. I just found, I don't know if I should ask you this. Did you ever get into sports cards or anything like that when you were younger?
I did when I was young. Like I felt like every kid was a baseball card collector, and you did that. You know, I had like, you know, I was trying to get Mark McGuire and Jose Canseco's and Will Clark's and stuff. But I never stuck with it like comic books. To be honest, I think I sold all my baseball cards and my Star Wars figures too, just to get money for comic books.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I still got the Star Wars figures. I got a whole closet off to my left full of all that stuff. One day I'll get it out and maybe part with some of it, but it's hard. It's very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
But with the cards, like I found, again, Amy found all my stuff, like all my old collection of cards, and I got into it deep. I was doing baseball, football, basketball, and hockey at one point, and I got all these cards. But I thought, I knew I had a few in there that were worth something, because they were worth something back in the day. But one of my students, he's like we are with comics. That's how he is with cards. He knows everything about them. And so I had him take my whole collection. This dude, he literally he had like this like a microscope hooked up to an LCD screen, like where he could zoom in on them and everything.
Yeah.
And he found this Bo Jackson card that I have that's like, just a Bo Jackson rookie. It's a common one. It was like a $4 card, but he found that I had this ultra rare error version. And so one day, the other day, I get a text from him. He's like, "Hey, on your way home from jiu-jitsu today, can you swing by my house real quick?" And he's like, "I found something in your collection I want to show you in person or whatever." And I go over, and he's like, he's got all his browser window open on eBay and all these tabs, and he's like showing me, he's like, "See this card?" He goes, "This normally it's like, look, it sells for like $4 or whatever." He's like, "But you have this one." And he opens it up and he's showing me all the sales, and it's like anywhere from $4 to $8,000 for this Bo Jackson error card. And it's because literally, like, under the microscope, you could see these little these little defects, and like the logo was off center from where it was supposed to be in the printing and like there's a huge market for people like collecting error cards. So I thought, like, oh, I got nothing in here. And out of this gigantic collection, he found maybe a little short box of cards, but it was all like error stuff like that and like rare stuff. So I was like, damn, like, I guess it pays to have friends that are experts in things. Like, hopefully if he ever comes across any comics, he brings them to me so I can pay it back to him.
Sure. Yeah. What a find. Are you going to grade it?
Yeah, so he gave me, so it actually sells raw for that,
Whew.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like it sells raw anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000. But he gave me the shop he's been going to for cards, like pretty much for like the past 20 years or whatever. He really knows the guy well. So I'm supposed to go and meet with that guy and see like his advice on what I should do with it and like the best way if I'm going to sell it, if I should get it graded or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk about like hidden treasures in the house.
I'd just tell him you sell it and buy your Hulk 181.
That's what I'm thinking, man. Yeah, a lot of the people I've had on here are very much like you and I, to where it's like we sell things as a means to getting that next thing, right? So for me, it's that Hulk 181, as you know, like, and I'm really glad that like we talked about that. Like I almost pulled the trigger on one, but because of that rumor for Deadpool, like everybody had that book priced way up. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, he did show up in there momentarily, so people weren't wrong. But now, yeah, I'm definitely thinking that some of these cards will go towards getting some of those grails. So that brings me to my last thing I wanted to chat with you about tonight before I let you go, and that would be, I know you have a lot of your Grail books. Like you've been very fortunate to find some of those and purchase them. Do you have, and it's a dumb question because we always have a rotating list, but do you have any others in mind that you're kind of on the prowl for right now?
I want a Fantastic Four #1.
Yeah,
that's the book that started it all. I feel like if you're a real collector, like, you know, and serious collector, you got to have one of those. I mean, it's the first Marvel family, but now is not the time to buy one. Obviously, with the hype of the movie and everything.
No. Yeah.
I've kind of looked a couple of times, thought about getting like a Golden Record reprints. I don't know if you look at those at all. You know, but they basically look exactly like the comics, without the you know, 10 cents on them or whatever. But the collector in me just won't. I can't do it. I can't have like a reprint or a fake facsimile or whatever. If I don't have the real thing, I don't want it. You know, and but that's a pricey book, and I'd be kind of picky. You know, obviously I'm not going to get a super high grade one or anything, but I definitely would want to get like, you know, somewhere in a 3.0 or something, which is going to be spendy, you know. But
yeah, it's going to be up there, yeah,
for sure.
But it definitely worth it, man.
Yeah, I would love to have any of those.
You've spoken into the universe.
Yeah, I would love to have any of those, you know, majors, like a Hulk first appearance, or I mean, obviously Spider-Man's almost, it's just too insane, you know, like, I mean, you could buy a car.
It is, man. I saw even I saw just a detached cover for Amazing Fantasy, and it was insanely expensive for just a detached cover. Or I've seen before where it'll be just like a single page or a coverless one where it has all the pages, and it's just always astronomically priced. Like that's one book that, well, there's a few books, but that never they always seem to continue increasing in value. But that Amazing Fantasy, man, like, it's crazy. I look at it, I'm like, I really want one day, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to justify it, you know?
I was in a comic book shop in Auburn, the Hills, and it was just me and one of the workers, and this older gentleman came in, and he asked, I was up by the counter, so I heard him ask, is the owner here? And I knew he wasn't. I hadn't seen him in there.
You went, yeah, it's me.
Yeah,
let me look at what you got.
Right. The guy's like, no, he's not here. He goes, well, do you guys want to see something? And the guy working's like, sure. And he had a paper bag with him, and he pulled out an Amazing Fantasy 15, and it was a 7.0. And I was like, oh, man, you know, I got to hold it, you know, and it was blue label and everything. It was nice. And he said, you know, he'd been a collector most of his life, and he basically like sold like 85% of his collection to afford that one book.
Wow.
Which, you know, I don't know.
So was he wanting to, no, yeah, Like, I think you and I are a lot alike in the fact that a lot of our stuff that maybe not necessarily, it's not necessarily stuff that's super quote unquote valuable from a price stance or a market stance, but the sentimental value that it has. Like, I'm sure you've got books where even though it's not technically that valuable, like it would be very hard to sell them or to part with them.
Oh, for sure. I got quite a few of those. Like I got Carnage first appearance that I bought off off the rack at a supermarket when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
I had it signed by Bagley and whoever else, and sent in CGC. And
Randy, did you get Randy Emberlin to sign it too?
I believe so. I think it was the artist and the writer.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I sent it in, and it only got an 8.5, which it's not worth a lot of money, but to me, I mean, I bought that book, and Carnage was like, whoa, he was cool, just like Venom was, and so yeah, I wouldn't sell like that kind of book. It just reminds me of, the better days, like when you were a kid and you didn't have any money and stuff, and getting that book and holding on to it forever, and it's kind of cool.
And honestly, if you think about it, the fact that it was on the rack and then you had it, and I'm sure you appreciated it and enjoyed it as a kid, and you weren't like babying it as much as now we would with our collection. Yeah. Like the fact that it still got that high of a grade is pretty impressive, really.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I kind of remember when bags and boards like started to be a thing, because it used to not be a thing. You'd go to a comic store and it'd be raw books just on the shelf. And, as a kid, everybody's picking them up and they're telling you, don't read them, buy them, and, but now, like, most of the time you go to the store, a lot of times they'll be in the plastics already. So you can open them up, you just look at them or whatever and read them when you get home or whatever. But, I love it. I love comic books, and I can't ever see me putting them down.
Yeah, you and me both, and I think we both kind of have the same retirement plan. Some form of it's going to involve comics in some form, man, because the mind is willing but the flesh is weak sometimes. Like you and I are in that same age range, and you probably have a little more wear and tear on you as well from some of the MMA days and everything. But it's like, I often sit back and think, I'm like, really, how long will my body allow me to do this? Like, I want to be involved to some extent, like forever, like for as long as I can do it. But just as far as maintaining a certain level of the physical involvement that we want to have with it, like, I know one day the body's going to be like, nope, we can't do it to this degree anymore, Hopefully that day is many, many years in the future, but I definitely think, like, especially with all the avenues we have for comics, like selling and everything, and we can do online, we could do a little shop, like whatever, like that sounds like a primo retirement plan to me.
Yeah, I would love to read comic books and talk comic books with people, and I don't know about you, but I've always been jealous because I've been in the shops many times when people bring collections in and they buy them for, here's $50. And I'm like, I saw from across the room $50 on one book, you know what I mean? And like, I'm like, oh, I want to be in that position someday, and so we'll see,
Well, that's the thing too. Like, it's kind of sad because like a lot of people, they end up inheriting collections or whatever, and they don't always go to the extent of looking through them. They just know, like, these are probably worth something, I'm gonna take them into this shop. And like, I've seen that too, like basically pennies on the dollar. You see them throwing out and you're like, man, I spotted like 5 key books in there that are worth over $1,000 total, and you're giving them $50 or $100. Like, yeah. And probably if I had a shop, my honesty would probably get me in trouble with stuff like that. I might be like, hey, you might, I might be like, hey, you need to go do a little more homework and then come back and talk to me.
Sure. I feel like there's a way to do it though, where you you buy them for a decent price and you can live with like yourself and still make your money. You know what I mean? When you give them $50 for a collection worth $5,000 or something like that, and you're going to sell that $5,000 collection for $7,000 because you're going to mark it up even more.
Yep.
What would be if you gave that person $1,000, still would have got a deal, and that would have been a little bit better for yourself. You know what I mean? But
yeah, ultimately, I would have to be able to sleep at night. I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror and be able to sleep at night, knowing that I tried to be as fair as possible. Right? Like I get how it works. Like I know most of these places, they got to get that collection for cheaper and then they're going to mark it up and all of that. But yeah, I think it needs to be within reason. Like one neat thing I've seen some sellers do is they'll like offer to like help the person sell the collection and then like work out a percentage share or something like that. Yeah. So I think there's some ways to go about it in that regard too, that's a little more fair for the person on the back end of the deal.
Absolutely.
But Jeff, these are all discussions you and I are going to have when we do start our shops and we start selling. Hopefully Jiu-Jitsu is kind to us and allows us to continue for many, many more years. But I think we're both going to be exploring that territory together as we continue to age. So listen, man, I don't want to keep you too late. I appreciate you spending the time on here with me tonight. I could talk to you for hours. As you know, I could definitely see that when we get to the next tournament, we're going to be catching up. But I want to give you a chance. People follow you for your jiu-jitsu, for your coaching at MMA. Where can people find you online if they want to follow you? And I know every now and again you post some comic book stuff too. So if people want to follow you, where's the best place that they can see your adventures, see you post those pictures when you visit those comic shops in other states?
Just Instagram. That's the only thing I look at anymore. Instagram at Jeff Hougland.
Nice. And I'll make sure to include that in the show notes for everybody. I want to take a moment just to remind everybody that this podcast, it's both on YouTube and on any audio podcast platform. Make sure you check us out, youtube.com/@Nerdy Mewzings. Got an Instagram as well, Nerdy Mewzings. Please give us a review over on Apple Podcasts. If you listen there, it seems to help greatly with the exposure. And Jeff, when are we going to do this again? Probably sooner than later, right?
Yeah, I hope so, Coach.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, thanks for spending time with me. Hang out with me for a few moments here. I'm going to hit the outro. Everybody, as always, keep it nerdy.